Welcome to the Puzzle People Pod. I'm here today with my co-host Emily, director of Puzzle People, as well as Val and Aly, who many of you may know from puzzle competitions. Both are part of the JPA. You'll find Aly announcing the competitions at Nationals and Val doing the commentary on the live stream. Our conversation today is on the evolution of puzzling. Welcome, everyone.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. So just to give a little context, today's conversation is a how did we get here kind of conversation. And so I was talking about this with Val because I was saying it feels like in some ways she's one of the OGs of puzzle competitions. So I wanted to know from like a personal standpoint, Val, how did you go from enjoying jigsaw puzzles to finding a event, participating in speed puzzling, and now in some ways being the face of the JPA because it is you in the live stream?
Oh, I don't know even how to begin to answer that. I mean, I think it kind of sneaks up on you. It's not like,
Gets away from you.
yeah, like even going into doing the Jigsaw Puzzle Association, I didn't think like, yeah, and then eventually I'll be live stream commentating. And like that wasn't in the design. I mean, that just is a happy accident, which I love. It's like my favorite thing to do now, but yeah, it's not something I anticipated. I I don't know. I mean, it's like I said, it's kind of hard to answer that. I feel like the biggest through line is just friendships. And I know that sounds kind of cheesy, but it's the friends you make along the way kind of thing. I mean, Allie and I were just having this conversation about like, doing this is so much work. And yet we still do it. I don't, and I mean, I think at this point we're doing it for each other, like we're all such good friends. It's like we want to succeed and we want the Jigsaw Puzzle Association to do well and we don't want to let each other down. And so we just keep kind of grinding away at it. And yeah, it's become like we're a really close group of friends now. And so that's part of it. But yeah, I think from the beginning, it was, my friends and my niece Misty and I, when we first discovered that we were actually fast at it and good at it. That's a powerful motivator. Like one of the first contests we did well. We got like second place and we were thrilled. And we just were like, oh my gosh, we're good at something. And so that kind of kept us going. And Allie, I know you can relate to that. I think you had the same experience.
Not competitive at all. Can we add like what year is this?
Oh, yeah, like 1999.
As of now, this is 2024 in October, and we've had Nationals 2024. So like, when was your first competition? And also, I don't think I know, but when was the first Nationals?
2022 was the first Nationals. And I started doing competitions in 1999. So I've been doing it 25 years, but I don't think of myself as the OG because I think of like Mary Carty.
Oh, yeah. And Andrew.
Yeah, Andrew Bradburn, Mike Helen, like they were doing those Hallmark championships, back in the 80s. And so to me, like they're the OG.
Yeah. Yeah, because back in the late 80s, early 90s, Hallmark was putting on competitions. Was that even before St. Paul Winter Carnival? Because hasn't it been off and on for like a long time?
I think so. I haven't been able to figure out when St. Paul Winter Carnival started doing their big competition. I mean, it's been going since I know prior to 1999 because that was one of the first big contests we did. But yeah, I don't know how long before that it was going on. But yeah, so I don't think of myself as like an original, but
Man, you're pretty darn close. Yeah, Andrew and Mary and Mike Helen, they were around for those late 80s, early 90s Hallmark competitions. But
I think he was doing I think some of those were like early 80s too.
you might be right. Yeah. Allie, what about you? When did you kind of bust onto the scene? So I'm like not nearly as OG as Val, but a sort of OG in the kind of bigger boom of jigsaw puzzling. So yeah, you've got the early 80s with Andrew, who was one of my teammates originally, and then Val in the late 90s, and then in 2017 or something. So fast forward a little further. Like Val said, they really kind of just stumbled on this. My like origin story is super long, so I'm working on shortening it. But I did a puzzle with a friend who my family always made comments about me being fast. And then my friend made a comment and kept commenting until I said, fine, let's host a competition at my house. And we did that and I won that. And I was like, oh, I guess I'm fairly fast. And then fast forward, we started hosting competitions in 2018 at the local bars, kind of like a bar trivia, but speed puzzling. And at that time, the only competitions that I knew of were the St. Paul Winter Carnival in Minnesota. And then I don't even think the World Championship had started yet. Yeah, because that was 2018. So there was like the 24 hours of puzzling in Belgium. And if you Googled speed puzzling competition, that was pretty much it. Like Val can tell you too, right, Val? Like,
Yeah, you couldn't.
did you see them pretty much anywhere else?
No, you couldn't find stuff. It was usually like, it was either those few big events, or it was like little tiny church kind of fundraiser events. And they were not at all like serious contests, really. They were more like, let's get together and puzzle for charity or something. So, yeah.
Yeah. And that's still like probably fairly like unique to maybe Minnesota even, I wonder, because I had never ever encountered them. And I'm originally from Iowa. I'm in San Diego now, but so yeah, so we started doing I hosted them with my friends. We kind of made like a little bit of a side gig out of it. And then that's how I met Tammy McLeod, who you guys know, a lot of people know. She's well known now as a Guinness World Record holder for speed puzzling, but she came to an event and I like beat her at one, which doesn't happen as often. And so she was like, oh, this girl is pretty fast. And so then she asked if we want to go to the St. Paul Winter Carnival that year. And she knew Andrew Bradburn, who's one of the OGs from back in the 80s. And then I knew one of my teammates now, Lindsay Steenstra, from volleyball, because that's what, one of my other hobbies. So we all went to the St. Paul Winter Carnival in 2020. It was 2020. It was right before the world shut down, or maybe it was 2019.
No, I think it was 2020 because
Yeah,
we literally met right after that to talk about USA JPA, I think.
that's how we met Val. Like Tammy knew of Val because of the Wicker Kittens documentary about the St. Paul Winter Carnival. So Tammy fangirled over Val. She was like, let's connect. It's so interesting because I think, especially now, a lot of people are hot on speed puzzling, and it's been a community that just feels like it's growing and growing and growing. But, really what I'm hearing is that there were some niche competitions. There was Winter Carnival, and it really wasn't until recently. I mean, I didn't even know that Nationals wasn't around pre-COVID. And so it sounds like this, again, is a very sort of new thing in a way. And so you've given a little bit of overview, but I mean, at what point did you guys go from the JPA kind of being like we should do this to I can't believe we're doing this to oh my God, we're doing this. I heard that was 2022. So there's been 2 nationals. What was that like? Because I think, again, a lot of people who probably found you in 2024, like Ben and I did, I mean, I thought you guys had been around for a long time. So this is enlightening to me too, to hear how new this is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, okay. I thought of one kind of answer to your question. I think pretty early on, our group was very ambitious. Like I feel like, when we first started meeting, we were talking about, what could this look like? And eventually we were just like, oh yeah, there could be an association in every state. We're the official liaison. I mean, right from the get-go, we were the official liaison with the World Jigsaw Puzzle Federation because Alfonso kind of helped, and he's the president of the WJPF, and he kind of helped us find each other and, encouraged us to meet. And so we had that kind of going in, like we know we're the official liaison, like that this group has got that kind of going for it. And yeah, we were just like, and then someday we can have thousands of members and we have a championship in every state. And then those people are qualified for nationals. And then the national champions qualify for worlds. And that's how we build this giant like competition structure. So I don't think it was like a total shocker. Like it's been sort of going according to plan, I would say.
It was crazy because so Tammy had kind of tapped me about it, and she had already been talking to Val and Faith and Jonathan Clough, who was one of the original co-founders, and we partner with him a lot now with speedpuzzling.com. But so she had asked me if I was interested, but like not that long before that, I had just finished hosting Pacific Puzzlers stuff, the bar puzzling, and I'd sort of used taken a step back from that because I was like, oh, I'm just really busy. We had bought a house and all these things. And so I was like, I don't know if I want to do that. And also it was just a little like me and my friends that were hosting it, we kind of had different views for how to like go forward with it. And so it's sort of like, oh, I don't know. And then I jumped on a meeting and Val, you guys I think had met like once before. And I get in this call and they were like, okay, so I'm gonna open up the bank account and like I already started filing the paperwork for the 501(c)(3. I already talked to the lawyer and I was like, whoa. And I was just sort of like, these people are amazing. I gotta like hop on this ride. And so yeah, it was moving fast right away.
Yeah. Yeah, we were pretty serious. And I mean, I think that was before COVID. Like we had already like by second meeting, it was like we were off and running and then COVID happened maybe like a month later. And then we were all like, okay, well, cool. We've got a lot more time on our hands right now. So yeah, yeah. Cause I know I had the bank account. I think like I had started making those arrangements and then it took forever to finalize because they wouldn't let me come in and physically do any like signing of things. So I had to like stand in like it. Yeah, I had to go to the drive up and have my meeting through the glass with the like business accounts person. It was very weird.
Oh my gosh. Well, and I don't think we said this yet. I think the funny thing is like, I think Val, you were already trying to make something happen and you've been talking about it for a while. And Faith was trying to find something. Jonathan was trying to find something. And then Tammy had like really contacted everyone. And her big drive was like originally the World Jigsaw Puzzle Federation said you have to have like a national association that you sign up through, which is their goal eventually, but not every nation has an association. But Tammy wanted our team to go to the World Championship, so she's like, let's form this thing. So really, she just formed this so we could go to World.
I know, and then it just, like, took on this whole other thing, and then she just, I guess, was like, "I guess I'm doing this now?" Like, it was kind of great, though, because Tammy had it was truly, like, a perfect meshing of skills because Jonathan had the whole finance piece, like, he's, I think does, accounting or something in his real life, so he had that, and Faith also, like, manages grants, and she's, like, a finance person as well, and then Ally's got, like, the kind of, event organizing thing going on, and so do I, and then I do the communications, and then Tammy's this, like, awesome tech guru who just knows everything, and I think before our second meeting, she'd already secured, like, every domain name. She had a website. Like, it was just insane how fast it moved, and she was like, "Yeah, so I've got multiple domain names we can use," and then we just, like, figured it out after that, and it was kind of just the perfect blending of type A personalities.
Which is amazing because you would not think you put a bunch of type A's together, you would think like they're gonna butt heads, but like, no.
I kind of love that this is low key Tammy's puzzle villain origin story in the best possible way. That she just wanted to go to Worlds so bad that there was this elaborate like ruse that became now like a real It's a real thing, the JPA. I feel like we're spilling all of your secrets, though.
Yeah, yeah.
Can we credit Tammy with the JPA name? Is that, was she searching for domain names?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I think so, because I think she originally it was like US or USA. Like she just had multiple versions. And then we were like, yeah, USA Jigsaw. Like we yeah, USA JPA had a nice ring to it. So then we went with that. But yeah, I mean, she was, like I said, instrumental in that. She was so far ahead of the game on that kind of stuff that none of us had really thought about. But yeah, no, she did just kinda get dragged along maybe for a while. She was like, "What is happening here?"
But none of us really knew. Like, I don't think if you would have told me this would be my life 4 or 5 years ago, I'd have been like, what are you talking about?
We heard a little bit about the origin story, obviously, but for those who still may not know what the USA JPA is, what is it, and what can people do with it?
Yeah, I mean, we have a threefold mission. Do you remember the different parts of the mission, Allie?
Okay, it's to connect the well, first, it's that we're the liaison with the World Federation, right? So we help make sure that people can sign up for the federation. We liaise with them. We pass on all the info to our members, make sure that they have everything they need as far as the World Jigsaw Puzzle Championship goes. And then I think also I'm trying to remember what it like specifically says, but kind of we aim to have a national championship every year and just help foster. Well, I just said every year. We've so far had a national championship every other year. And so we aim to be the ones who hold the national championship. And then we help foster other events. So we're actually working really hard to finish finalizing a few last things so that we can start sanctioning some events, because people want to kind of have an event that's of the caliber, saying, yes, this is such a well put together event that the USA JPA will put their stamp on it, and it's run in a certain way. And but we like to help, events as small as like library events, or I want to do this with some of my coworkers or whatever. And then just like the bigger picture is just to foster the community overall, right? Speed puzzling or casual puzzling alike, to just really kind of connect the community, which is then I'm a really competitive person, so the other stuff has generally mattered more to me. But the connecting people has actually like surprised me how special that's been, because and I know you guys know about this, how much puzzling can be helpful with improving mental health, but then connecting people in the puzzling world has done some really kind of incredible things that you wouldn't expect out of like connecting puzzlers. But we kind of joke, we're like, we're changing lives, because we do get some stories from people where they say, this is something that really kind of is connecting me with this community I didn't know that I needed, and it's really made such a huge difference for me. And yeah.
Outside looking in, when we were at the nationals, the last nationals, it definitely seemed like everyone there was that was like the highlight of the year. It seemed like everyone was like super stoked to be there. And I guess speaking of nationals, how did that really become a thing? Was that you mentioned, Aly, that you're the competitive one? Was that your driving force? Was that your baby?
No, actually, I think like you guys all, I was just sort of along for the ride. Tammy was like, do you want to do this? I was like, okay, cool. But but I think Faith was like the most adamant, but I think Val, you were too. Really everyone else but me. I was like, oh sure, that sounds cool.
She knew how much work it was gonna be, so she was like, "Are you guys nuts here?"
I think that's right. I was like, it's gonna be really hard.
Yeah, that was literally in our mission, was to like be the ones to host a national championship. So, I mean, we were kind of just waiting for the opportunity, because with COVID, you couldn't. So we did a virtual competition in 2021, And that was sort of our placeholder. And just, it kind of helps to grow the community if you have those kinds of events, because then people want to join and, that kind of thing. And so that was, a goal from the beginning. And then in 2022, I felt like we were having that pretty early in, it was like not, I think, you'd been able to get vaccinated for a while, but maybe only like 6 months or so prior when you could first get vaccinated. So I felt like we were kind of early, like we were having an event kind of early, I feel like, for in-person events, because I remember the hotel was like so excited that they were finally booking like this big thing. And they gave us like a really good rate because
It was October 2022.
yeah, exactly, because at that point, not a ton of people were getting together for big, huge conference type things.
I think everyone was just recovering at that point. So things were like happening large at that point, but they had just started recovering. So nothing was booked out yet. Yeah, that's right.
I mean, you guys both brought up the pandemic and how it was kind of nationals was like one of the first events back. And now 2024, I know it got even bigger. And so I'm curious, how has the pandemic kind of changed the community? And how has it brought in more competitors? And how do you maintain kind of the spirit of what was there at the beginning? Because I know that that's like been something very important for you guys. You want to create something that's welcoming, but you also kind of want to maintain the culture of what's working.
Right.
I mean, we have gotten asked about that quite a bit from a manufacturer perspective. People are like, yeah, I know puzzles really exploded and you couldn't even get puzzles. And then we're like, well, we don't really work with manufacturers that much, so we can't answer much on that. But yeah, as far as the speed puzzling thing, that was when online competition started. I mean, prior to that, I'm not aware of anybody doing a virtual, like via Zoom, online type of competition. And so that really did make it accessible for people. And it's not like I'm grateful for the pandemic, but in a weird way, it like pushed the sport forward quite a bit because, Jonathan, yeah, like while Jonathan was working with us to get USA JPA going and we were just starting to host like some online competitions, he was sort of starting a side hustle with speedpuzzling.com and saying like, hey, I'm willing to do these more frequently and like offer it out to people. And so he started doing those like monthly competitions, and that just really got the community like more involved and expanded it out quite a bit because you didn't have to travel anymore. People could just do it from their home. And even if they just are using a smartphone.
And it also kind of connected people, like the community was smaller at first, right? But it connected people from near and far with each other. So it created it kind of combined that community more quickly. Those people met each other that wouldn't have met each other otherwise, right? Because they're, in New York and California. And all of a sudden, though, they're on these virtual competitions, interacting just even with their results and stuff on Facebook page or whatever. And so I think that sped everything up. All of these people being able to meet much more quickly in a way that wouldn't happen otherwise. And people were also willing to spend their Saturdays this way. There were a lot less competing events for their time. And so people just really dove in. I mean, most people, I think, did puzzles during the pandemic. There was one manufacturer stat. One of them told me their sales increased by like 800%. And to an extent that it actually was like a problem because they couldn't keep up at all. But yeah, I think it just, everyone was spending more time doing it. So it catapulted it forward.
We've been talking a lot about the speed aspect of puzzling, but I think that completely negates some of the things I saw at nationals that had nothing to do with speed puzzling, like the giant puzzle, the puzzle chess. I mean, can you guys talk a little bit about how the JPA is bringing puzzlers together with all different interests who maybe aren't just about speed puzzling? I mean, obviously that's there and a feature, but some people aren't there for the speed puzzling, I found.
Yeah, there's quite a few. We have like someone who's started volunteering a lot of their time for us even recently. They're like, I don't really care about the speed puzzling part. But she enjoys we tried to build out some programs that helped build the community in ways that it wasn't necessarily linked to speed puzzling. One of them is like we have a traveling puzzle program. So sort of like chainmail, but with puzzles. We send out a puzzle. We have a different manufacturer each month, and we send out a few puzzles. And the person gets it and does it and sends it to the next person. And so they can kind of get to know, like some of them live really close to each other. So all of a sudden they're like, oh, wow, there's someone like for me, there's someone a half a mile away that I realize is half a mile away because of traveling puzzles. Um, and like our puzzle club, we have a virtual, it's technically people can hop on and do virtual speed puzzling every month. But there's also lots of room for just casual puzzling there. And plenty of people actually jump on the Zoom call and just chat. Like they're just casually puzzle and or might not even puzzle and just like want to hang out with all the other puzzlers. And um like you said, at our events, there's tons of stuff for people to do that has, nothing to do with speed puzzling. Like we had, social events and dinners and um all kinds of different things. Seminars. Yeah, so many different seminars.
Yeah, we've been really intentional about not wanting our group to just be about speed puzzling because the number of people I run into still and they find out about what I'm doing or, and they ask questions about it, they're just like, why would you want to take something relaxing and make it stressful? So
Why did you ruin it?
right. And so we don't want to be like, oh, yeah, then you don't have a place in our organization. Like, we want people that just enjoy jigsaw puzzles to be a part of the USA JPA. You do not have to like speed puzzling. And, that's why we have the kind of convention component at our event. Usually, if you go to a speed puzzling competition, that's all it is. Even at Worlds, Alfonso, having attended our event in 2024, went back and was like, I want to build out way more opportunities for puzzlers to socialize and just get to hang out because at Worlds, which is like a 5-day event, in the past, it's really just been focused on the puzzling and on the speed aspect of it. And he's seeing, that there's a lot more potential there for what we offer, which is the kind of convention component where anybody who likes jigsaw puzzles can come and find things to do and meet people and just have a good time and just nerd out about puzzles all weekend, basically.
Some of them even come to the event like just to volunteer, just to hang out with the puzzlers. Like they're like, I don't want to speed puzzle at all. And like I think that was even true for Worlds. There were some people who went just to hang out with all the puzzlers and for them being involved in it, volunteering for the event and or participating in like even at Worlds actually, we didn't really help with the JPA didn't help as much with organizing Worlds. Val did a lot because she's also the vice president of the World Jigsaw Puzzle Federation. But while we were there, we set up a couple of like social events with all of our members, so we set up one during one day and just said, hey, everyone meet at this restaurant and you can puzzle or hang out or whatever. And then another night we said meet, here, grab a drink, hang out. So yeah, we're just always trying to find ways to let people connect however they can.
It sounds like, there's a lot of new opportunity, not just like from more members joining, but organizationally, sounds like a lot of new events are being hosted, different kinds of events. Are there things you'd say to people who are looking to join, be a member of the JPA? What are sort of the things you're looking forward to in the near future?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I keep hearing about these state associations that are happening, whether or not we're ready for it. There's already states that are like, too bad, we've started one, and let us know how you want us to be involved. But yeah, we started one. And so we're seeing that where people that are part of our organization or have attended nationals like go home and then they're like, okay, we got to start this locally And so we're seeing some state associations start to pop up. And we're trying to figure out right now, like how that's going to work and what we can provide for
Fit them in.
resources. Yeah. And how do we fit them?
Yeah, because we're really trying to say, let us know that you're forming. We're working on kind of creating a framework of how we interact with each other, but like we're happy about it. I think something that we've tried to do in general is if we have organizations or, other speed puzzling, like we collaborate a lot with speedpuzzling.com or just any similar stuff that's popping up, we're really happy. Like we're happy about it. We want it to grow. We don't feel competitive with it. We're just like, cool, you want to do the association? We'll let you know how we can interact soon.
Yeah, I mean, we do. We try to have a real yes and mentality, not a kind of gatekeeping type of thing. Like we want there to be more opportunities out there for people. So yeah, so if other people are organizing some big event, we're like, cool. Like, what do you need? Like, how do you have any questions? Like, what can we help with? And can we tell our members and share your details when you're ready? Like we want just the more you do that, the bigger the community becomes and the more opportunities there are for people. And that's important to us as well, that other people are getting exposed to it. And, it's overwhelming sometimes. I think we have like over 2,200 members and the emails, we just get so many emails. So, when we have a lot of members, you have a lot of people out there with questions, and we just do our absolute best to try to get back to everybody. But we're all volunteers still too. So we all have day jobs. And
sometimes we get emails from people to finish answering your question, asking, hey, do you know someone in, my area that I can connect with? And if we know of a state org, then we connect them, or a lot of times we have a Facebook forum, we send them to that. Or, we make sure they know about our events. Or Puzzle Club is such a big one because people kind of get to know each other there in the virtual event and then realize, oh, we can reach out to each other. We're more local. And I think actually, I was looking at recently on We Don't Love our member platform, but it does have a feature where we can maybe set up some groups to start to help people connect within their regions a little more and stuff. So we're really working hard to share that information as much as possible and help people just connect as easily as possible. Because it generally helps us because then they share information with each other and answer each other's questions.
exactly.
I love it. We're passing the buck to the Facebook.
I mean, as we grow too, like we get more and more people coming forward that are like, hey, what can I do to help? Which is just awesome. So we have so many more volunteers now than we did when we, were first getting started. And it's exciting because, they get involved and then they see how things work. And then they're more likely to go back and do things on their own as well. And I do want to do a shout out. I don't know when this podcast will air, but we are going to announce our 2025 nationals like this week. So we are going to an every year format. I know people have been like, wait, what? Like you guys only do it every other year? And we're like, well,
every year in some version, a USA Jigsaw National Championship.
yes.
The convention portion may still not be every year, including 2025 won't be the full USA Jigsaw National Championship and convention. We're going to focus on championship. There will be a convention aspect that's not put on by us. I hope that's not too much sharing.
Did our podcast just have breaking puzzle news? Thank you guys for making us more relevant.
I mean, yeah, it comes up a lot. And we kind of realize like, yeah, we don't want to sit out because I mean, Jonathan's doing all these state championships. So you got all these people that are winning a spot in, like the first place winners in those state champions and regional championships win a spot in nationals. So we're like, well, we kind of need to hold an event so they actually can come and participate. But also Ravensburger, I mean, they're such an amazing sponsor and they are just so keen. So they're just like, okay, well, let us know how we can make this happen. So they're really stepping up and going like, okay, what all can we provide for support to make sure that this isn't like overly taxing for all of you who because that's one of the biggest obstacles is that we want to do this big giant thing every year, but we would have like finished nationals and had to start planning like, a month later, and we're all just exhausted after something like that. So that's been kind of what's holding it.
Yeah, because when we're putting it on, like 4 of us, we've had volunteers. We managed to really bring on more volunteers this year to help with some bigger like lifts, but then we also expand the scope, so that's on us. But like I think probably for the last at least 3 months of planning nationals, we're probably spending what, like 20 hours a week on top of our full-time jobs doing this. So by the end of it, we're like dead and it takes like a month and a half to recover. So yeah, I think Val's right though. So we're aiming to do something every year. The next few years might not look, we're aiming for 2026 to look the same as 2024 did as far as championship and convention. And I would say 2025, 2027 is still a little bit up in the air if that will look exactly the same as the last few nationals, or that might be a little pared down, but still have enough components to, scratch the itch of wanting to go and connect everyone each year.
I think that's what's surprising to us is when we first were thinking about doing national championship, where we were like, well, we could do it every other year because people aren't going to want to use all their vacation to just go to puzzle events every year. And we're so wrong. They do want to use all their vacation days to go to puzzle events.
You guys did too good of a job. And that is, I always joke, like when you're good at something, sometimes you get punished for being good. And you made the event so good that everyone was like, heck yeah, this is how I'm going to use my PTO. This rocks. So on that note, we've heard about the history, we've gotten to know you both a little, and we got some juicy gossip about what is going to happen with nationals in the coming years. I think we should end with a fun fact about both of you that people may not know, because I'm sure people feel like they know you because they see you kind of doing the announcements. So what is something that maybe people don't know? Something about you maybe outside of puzzling. I leave it to whoever wants to go first.
I wanted to pick one that's as unrelated to puzzling as I could think of. Some people actually may know it because in 2022 I talked about it a little bit. But I was actually in 2011, I was a marrow donor for a woman who had leukemia. She needed a marrow donation to cure her leukemia. And so I did that, and it helped save her life. And so when I'm not doing puzzling or volleyball or running, I'm volunteering for the National Marrow Donor Program to help kind of spread the word about what marrow donation is like, which is not as painful or not painful. People think that it's painful. And that's kind of the big reason I like to talk about. I donated to tell people it's actually not a scary, painful procedure like people think. But that's something that, a lot of people don't know about me is I volunteered for NMDP because I was a marrow donor.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I had no idea. It sounds like it would be painful. So now I'm like gonna have to check that out and learn more because it sounds like a good thing.
Most of the time, it looks very similar to just a really long blood donation. A little like 5 to 10% of the time, they take the marrow from your hip bones, but you're completely asleep. You don't feel anything. You're just a little achy, and that's it. So look it up.
Well, and you have so many like heartwarming stories about that because you're friends with the person that you donated to. So, yeah.
Yeah. Her and her daughter and her husband, they're all doing well.
Cool. Okay, I did think of something. I don't know if I've talked about this ever. Probably not on a live stream because it's kind of like dark. Not super dark, but when not long I moved to Duluth and I worked for a fashion retailer. And I used to be in charge of like their catalog, but that's not the thing. I did that for a couple of years. And then I took a job at a nonprofit called the Center Against Sexual and Domestic Abuse. And I spent 10 years working as an advocate for victims of domestic violence and sexual assault. And it was like super rewarding. And so I have that sort of knowledge in my back pocket that comes in handy more than you would think. Yeah, it was a super rewarding job. It was difficult, and that's part of why I left, because if you do that for a while, it can be very draining on a person. But the part that I enjoyed the most about it is I got to help people file for restraining orders, and sometimes I had to go to court, and I was almost like their representation. And I wanted to be a lawyer when I was a kid, and that was the closest I will ever get. And so I really liked that part of my job because I got to like take statements and then help argue for why they should get a restraining order sometimes. And I really dug that part of my job. So it's kind of a fun thing.
I'm going to be honest, these fun facts were completely different than I thought. I thought we were going to get some like Game of Thrones or like Harry Potter trivia, maybe. I don't know. But this was much better. So thank you both for being with us. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends. You can find us on Instagram at puzzlepeopleDA.
And if you know someone who you think would make a great guest, reach out to us. You can reach us at ben@chickenwingpictures.com.